My three theories are the social learning theory, the Ericksonian theory, and the sociological theory. For the social learning theory, in the book, it talks about how a way adolescents learn how to behave not only by punishment but by imitating people around them. In Dr. Randall's lecture video, when discussing the identity development slide, Dr. Randall discusses the way adolescents are shaped by interactions with others and by how the teacher responds and how peers interact with us and everybody else around us. In the video, the clinical psychologist Carly Flam-Decker says that adolescents learn and feel pressure to conform to music, how to dress, and other good things like getting good grades and respecting authority. So it's not always bad things that people learn from their peers. In the article, it discusses how teens learn from media such as MTV and the messages it portrays. It also says that once some teens started going to school, more started to go no matter what their status was. And this kind of says like when certain teens started going to school, more and more started going because they were kind of following what other teens were doing. For the Ericksonian theory, the book describes it as a development of the ego and touches on Erik Erikson's 8 stages in psychosocial development, each characterized by a crisis and adolescence challenges to overcome the identity crisis and find who you are and where you are going in life. Dr. Randall talks about Erik Erikson and how he is a personality theorist and known for the study of identity crises, now adolescents. 3 reasons why adolescents ask, "Who am I?" is because of changes in puberty, new abilities to do abstract thinking and reasoning, also family and society pressures. And they did this by clinical and cross-cultural observations. And Dr. Randall discusses each of the 8 stages of development and psychosocial crisis. And these 8 stages are infancy, early childhood, play age, school age, adolescence, young adulthood, and maturity. And Erikson believed in the psychosocial maturiism. And in the video, it talks about finding a sense of oneself and exploring who they are. And the exploration takes place in a variety of different ways by interests, sex, beliefs, values, and goals. In the article, it talks about how adolescence time period can be scarring for some, and body changes were a struggle in young people, and that they needed their space, time, and guidance to find oneself. And over the years, teens overcome adolescence and become potent. And in the article, it actually quotes, "While it appears to be a great time to be a teenager, it seems difficult to be an adolescent." It just kind of talks about how during adolescence, teens are going through a struggle and a crisis. And for the sociological theory, the book describes how adolescents come of age in society, relations differ between generations, and intergenerational conflicts discusses how adults and adolescents grow up during different time periods, which can cause some tension when going through the teenage years. For example, the things we wear, the music we listen to, the slang we use is not the same as older generations. And in the lecture for Dr. Randall, it doesn't directly talk about the sociological theory, but I related it to Mead's view of cultural determinism and the prefigurative culture. And this relates to the sociological theory because this culture is rapidly changing. So since society and culture changes over time, it conflicts with the ideas of elders and people during adolescence. In the video, Felipe shares that he doesn't get along with his father all the time, and he will sometimes not listen to his father or tell his father to leave him alone. And he looks for the coach to guidelines. So this kind of shows that teens do have issues with their parents. And the coach also explains that cultures have an effect on parent and child relationships. And for example, Hispanics don't share a lot with their parents in fear of getting in trouble. And Dr. Hinshaw in the video said it's best to cut slack and be warm, authoritative parents when children are going through adolescence. And in the article, it says that parents find the conflicted time of adolescence to be inevitable. And during the 19th century, many changes took place, and children were living a different role than their parents. And it also talks about how parents tried to stick with the traditions and values when they lived in their old country, whereas children were adapting to their own way of life. So children were adapting to the way the US was compared to how their parents were back in their old countries. So it just kind of shows how the different cultures and how parents are raised and how the children are raised nowadays do have an effect on their relationship.